And the title of this talk is "There's Truth in His Promise," and so I'm just gonna give some examples during the times in the Bible where there's people who were afflicted, but they've held on to God's promises and His words and His truth. So in Genesis chapter 39 and verse 1, and Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, and the officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which he had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptians. And his master saw the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house and all that he had put into his hand. And it's just one of those things that's like, when we go out into the world and we see and people see our light, see that, we are children of God, we are sons and daughters. And it's like the servant, saw it, his master saw it in Joseph, that God was with him. And even when during the times, like later on in the chapter, when Joseph was put into prison, down in verse 20, and it says, Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound, and he was there in the prison. But the Lord was with Joseph, and he showed him mercy, and he gave him favor in his sight of the keeper of his prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were there in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him. And that which he did, the Lord had made it prosper. And it's like, Joseph even though Joseph was in this situation, and it's like in times where we just don't know, we just don't understand what's going on, that the Lord is doing. It's like there was that promise that he made to him. Joseph never took his eyes off God, even when he was afflicted. And if we turn to Psalm 105, Psalm 105, verse 17. And it just shows that's like that there's a part of God's plan that he had planned out during this whole time. And in verse 17 it says, he sent a man before them, even Joseph, who was sold for a servant, whose feet they hurt with fetters. He was laid in iron, until the time that his word came. The word of the Lord tried them. The king sent and loosed him, even the ruler of the people, and let him go free. And it's just like, and during that time, Joseph didn't understand anything that was going on. But then it was because of that the Lord set his people free. And it was during that time and it's just like, we don't know what the bigger picture is. Only God does. And it's like, it's all we can rely on is his word. And, another time where it's just like in the Bible, we turn to Joshua 6, verse 2. And we all know this story, the walls of Jericho, when they brought them down because they were rejoicing in the Lord. And chapter 6, verse 2, and the Lord said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor, and ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go around the city once. Thou shalt do this 6 days. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns, In the seventh day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priest shall blow with trumpets. And it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horns, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up, and every man straight before him. And it's one of those things. It's like God will bless it, but He needs you to take action on those things. And Joshua heard all these words that the Lord was telling him. He's like, all right, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to go about it. How He says to do it. And then we all know that when he acted on what the Lord said to him, everything worked out in their favor. And it's like that confidence in God is what we lean on, is what we trust on during our times of trial. And one of my favorite scriptures, real quick, is if you go to 1 Samuel 16. And it's like another example of just like the confidence in God's plan. The words that He would speak unto other people, that's like, that unto His children, that we're gonna be able to get through this, and we're gonna be able to see the light, and the light for us is everlasting, the everlasting life. 1 Samuel 16, verse 13. Then Samuel took the horn of the oil and anointed him in the midst of his brethren, and the Spirit of the Lord came upon David from that day forward. And so Samuel rose up and went to Ramah. And so, this is, it's like God was going to make David king during this time. And so he didn't know what was going on what was going to happen in the next chapter when he would have to face Goliath. But when he did, if you turn over to the next chapter, verse 45, 17, verse 45, when he's about to battle Goliath, he had no fear because his confidence was in God, and he says it himself too. Then said David to the Philistine, Thou comest with me with the sword and with the spear and with the shield. I come thee in the name of the Lord of hosts, the God of the armies of Israel, whom thou hast defied. This day will the Lord deliver thee into mine hand, and I will smite thee, and take thine hand from thee, and I will give them into the carcasses of the house of the Philistines this day unto the fowls of the air, and to the wild beasts of the earth, and all the earth may know that there is a God in Israel. That there is a God in Israel. And in this assembly shall know that the Lord saveth not with the sword and spear, but for the battle is the Lord's, and He will give you into our hands. And it's like, David had that confidence going that like we're not gonna, like, I already know the outcome to this, because in the first chapter he told me that I was gonna be the king. So it's like he knows that he's gonna be the only victor. He's not gonna fail. It's not gonna be his own strength. It's gonna be on God's strength. And you see the impossible scenario where Goliath is just way stronger than David, but that doesn't matter. That doesn't matter who's stronger than who. It's that the Lord is bigger than any of our problems and makes all of our problems look small. And I think we can take comfort from that promise that when the end day comes, behold, I will come quickly, says Jesus in the last chapter, in the very last verse of the book of the Bible. That's what we're holding on to, is that He's going to come quickly, and we have to be ready. We have to be ready because He can't come. He can't come today. He can't come tomorrow. We don't know, but that's the words He said, and everything that the Lord said would happen, and so this is going to happen for us too. And all the people said.